Hello and welcome to the Movie Trap. I'm Russell Carlson, and with me as always, Chris Boroff.
We're gonna sing White Christmas.
This is where you say hi. Okay. Also joined with me, as always, Zach Powers.
Scared by a Halloween mask.
and we're joined.
On the Movie Trap, one person picks a theme and...
We're joined
I'm gonna get to that. I've got a thing going. I'm gonna get to that.
Okay, yes, sir.
I will get that. I will get that. On the Movie Trap, one person picks a theme and each of the three hosts picks a movie based on that theme. Each host starts with about 10 points to use a vote for which movie wins the theme. Plus, we even have a chance to increase our voting power by gaining bonus points from each other. Once we've watched all three movies, we use our points to vote for which one of the movie wins the theme, and the host that chose that movie gets to pick the next theme. Previously on the Movie Trap, we started Zach's theme of Ladies' Choice, Significant Others, Better Two-Thirds, picking their choices. We watched Bugsy Malone, chosen by one Shannon Camp of Zach Powers. And this time we are joined by Chris's lovely wife. We call her Boroff Sarah, who has chosen this week's movie, 1989's Communion. So, ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Hill.
With a quick production note, last time I do believe we ended the episode by saying we were going to watch Fire in the Sky. That was revised between episodes.
Yeah, we will explain why we didn't watch that one, because it was not good.
It was the sort of bad where it's not fun to talk about, and it was one of those things where normally once we pick a film, you can't just change what we've decided. But in this case, since it's Significant Others, I was like, there's no real numbers or math going on, so let's do something that's fun.
Absolutely. There's no real hard and fast rules to this in this theme. So before I throw it over to Zach, though, to summarize Communion for us, I mentioned earlier that we have the chance to gain some bonus points. Sarah, if you would like, you may give a bonus point for this episode if you so choose to, but do not feel like you have to.
Okay.
So just to recap last week's points and where we are with the points, Chris Boroff, you have 2 more bonus points to give, and you are sitting at 11 points for final voting. I also have 2 more points to give, with only 10 points to give in final voting, and Zach Powers has all 3 of his bonus points, but has 12 points to vote with in the final round. So, this week, we watched 1989's Communion. Zach, what is this movie the fuck about?
Communion is a 1989 extraterrestrial drama / horror, I guess, based on a book of the same name by a guy named Whitley Strieber. It was directed by Philippa Mora. It stars Christopher Walken and Lindsay Krause. And it is nominally based on a true story, according to Whitley. This is a nonfiction book, per his own words. So
put the quotation marks around that.
Yeah. Christopher Walken plays Whitley in this particular film. He's a weirdo writer. There's a lot of shots of him goofing around and being weird and being Christopher Walken. He's having trouble writing his new novel at the time. And he's frequently awoken by sleep terrors. He's convinced there's someone in the room. Sort of almost like a sleep paralysis thing, maybe. Yeah. So he's also terrible at most things like technology and cooking. For some reason, there's a scene where the firemen come to their house. What it contributes, I do not know. But he and his friends, a lady in an Amelia Earhart hat and a Russian man in a coonskin hat, decide to go to their cottage in the woods, where their son is briefly scared, and then later that night, most of them are scared except for the wife, who does not wake up, when a series of bright lights emit from outside of the cabin, and Walken sees a Grey-style alien hiding behind the cabinet, sort of hide-and-seek style. Mm-hmm. And
it just peers around.
Yeah. The following day, Walken seems to be rationalizing what could have happened, what maybe could have caused it, the alarm system, the moon, the wind, I don't know. That angers the Russian, who decides that they need to cut the vacation short, and they all drive home. A few weeks later, at Halloween, they attend a party in their apartment building, and then Walken is scared by a girl in a mantis masks. His wife is very angry about this, as is all the neighbors. I don't know why they're... Yeah, we'll get into how angry he is, I guess, later. But they're really...
There's only 2 modes in this movie.
Yeah, I'm going to say right now the relationship seems very hot and cold, where she's either really angry at him or, like, super in love with him, and there's no in-between.
Yeah.
They make
He lives a
inappropriate...
life of passion. It's a lot of passion.
There's a lot of inappropriate comments about them fucking in front of their son, and they also tell their son Santa's not real at one point. Regardless of that, Walken sort of becomes more despondent, though that's mostly informed by their son saying he's sad, and continues to have trouble writing his book. At Christmas time, they go to the cabin again, and he is abducted by some Doctor Who blue monsters and some more of the Greys, and they give him a shot behind the ear, and we later learn a rectal probe. Shortly thereafter, he becomes convinced that aliens are in his cottage, and one night he takes a shotgun and blasts apart a plant pot that one was poorly hiding behind, I guess, or maybe not, and then points the shotgun at his wife. I think there is a bullet sound effect, but he does not shoot her.
But it fires, but it fires into the ceiling, I think. It's a near miss, but it's never really explained.
I guess it's a near miss. There's no bullet holes to see, so I don't know what's going on.
A lot happening in that movie. It happens a lot. What is happening?
He gets examined for medical problems to see if he has something wrong with his brain. No, his brain's fine. And then he agrees to go to therapy to see a doctor who's reading a First Contact book. She
specializes in rape/alien abduction.
Yeah, apparently
they make
so.
that very clear.
There's a series of several times that she hypnotizes him and his wife, and they begin to remember things that they had suppressed per the aliens' orders. It seems like they can mind control the wife to stay asleep when this shit happens. Christopher Walken remembers being abducted, including a scene where he's hanging out with some props from the movie and a bunch of children in a room. He gets scared and runs away, and on the bus, he sees a bunch of praying mantises. And then his Russian friend shows up and says that what actually is Goebbels, the Russian propaganda minister, I guess. Anyways, Walken realizes he's seen strange stuff since he was a kid, and that his son also knows about the aliens. He's finally convinced to attend this therapy with a bunch of people who claim to have been abducted by aliens. And he learns that sometimes the abductions are passed from generation to generation. He finally decides to address his problems, so he dresses up real fancy and goes back to the cabin to confront the aliens, who slap him high five when he gets there.
He's not kidding. That is what happens.
But it's also helpful to know that this is with the soundtrack of Eric Clapton's "Wow, Wow,
Right.
Wow."
That's
happening
right.
the
Yeah.
I did not mention
time.
Eric Clapton did
everything-
the soundtrack.
Right, yeah. So the whole movie that everything's happening is this very 1980s softcore porn sort of soundtrack happening constantly.
The aliens then confront him with a mirror image of himself as a magician. Is the assistant his wife or another lady? I couldn't
think
quite
it's
tell.
another lady.
I think it is his wife.
Oh, is it?
I don't know.
No, it's another
No, it's
lady.
another lady.
We're
know.
checking the tape real
Is
quick.
it another lady? Okay.
Yeah.
It is another woman.
And that's never explained either.
So magician Walken talks in a bunch of vagaries and seems vaguely threatening for a while. And then normal Walken wakes up the next day by the highway. And now he's apparently at peace with the recurring alien encounters in his life. He's come to an understanding with the aliens. And that eventually his son will have encounters too, presumably. So he and his wife go off to a museum to make out and say pseudo-philosophy in front of art for a while.
To camera.
To camera. He decides his book will be about his experiences with the alien, and he kind of does like a Babadook where he learns to live with it and, get along with the aliens. And that's the story of Communion.
I didn't know that was how Babadook ended.
Sorry for the Babadook, minor Babadook spoilers. It's been like a decade. You should have seen it by now.
Well, the thing with the Russian, like I kept thinking he was saying goblins the whole time, or like boogans or something. He kept talking about spooky monsters.
It's some kind of folk monster or something, but it sounds exactly like Goebbels, the Russian propaganda minister.
Yeah.
So he kept
was German.
Yeah. Or German, I'm sorry. The German Nazi propaganda minister. So
They don't mind if you get them mixed up.
Little blue fuckers about that big.
When I was a boy, we knew of these things. In the mountains, there were many mines. Strange men were seen, little and tough. They were called kobolds, the people of the lower depth.
You talking about munchkins?
Kobolds.
You talking about trolls? You talking about
Kobolds.
leprechauns? What are you talking about?
Kobolds.
I don't know. Trolls or something. I'm talking about something else.
Certainly a movie.
yeah.
Walken is he's given a very classic Walken performance in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it is manic. It is confusing, but utterly compelling. I can't
Yeah,
explain it. He's just got charisma.
He's, I guess, the best thing in this movie in many ways.
Yeah, I would agree.
When he's trying to be like charming, nice dad, it kind of works. Like at the beginning, he seems like a charming, nice dude, and even though he has Walken voice, and and then he goes crazy, and he's, he does crazy Walken for a while. It's a fairly entertaining movie in its way.
It's weird because it's like from that time period in his career where no one knew what his deal was. Like no one knew if he was going to be the creepy guy who did weird movies or if he was going to be like a leading man type. So they had all these shots where it's like sexy Walken with his shirt off without realizing that's like, this might not be sexy. This might just be strange. And the other thing is that there's a lot of like dialogue in this where he kind of does like it's unclear who's talking or why they're talking or who they're talking to. Like when he goes to the ship at the end,
like
he
that,
like starts when he has like the regression thing, he starts talking, and I think it's supposed to be what he's thinking as he's going through the regression, but it appears to just be Christopher Walken like sitting in a room of aliens going like, "Hey, I don't like you. Go to hell, alien." And like when he says the thing about like White Christmas, it's a very strange moment. It's a very strange, I don't know what the meaning of that line was.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this character's quirks that I don't understand. For example, like, I don't know why he films himself writing. Does anybody know? Do you know anybody who does that?
No.
Who, like, I don't make any. I can't.
I
make
assume
any sense
it's
of
to
that.
jerk off to later.
I mean, maybe it's kind of like a Twitch thing. Like, people just do stuff on Twitch. Maybe it was like the 1980s version of Twitch where you just videotape yourself nonstop. I don't know why, man. It's weird. Nothing in this movie makes sense.
It's like the Monty Python sketch of novel writing where they turn writing a novel into like a sports thing, right? So it's kind of like that. Like, oh, and he's writing in. Is that an A? A what? Doesn't make any sense. And it was approaching. Anyway. I just didn't. There's a lot of weird quirks with this particular character, but it's even weirder. Is that like the guy who apparently
this
the true
guy.
story, the guy who wrote the book, is also an executive producer and wrote the script for this movie, so he has no one to blame but himself.
This guy is
all of that dialogue was really confusing.
Yeah.
This guy's an interesting fella, Wheatley Strieber. I looked him up a little bit. I don't know. Did anybody else read about him?
I read about him,
I
but
did a little bit.
I'm familiar with his other two films that he was involved with from when I was like 5 or 6, like Wolfen
Sure.
and I can't remember what the
The
other one
Hunger,
was.
directed by
The
Tony
Hunger.
Scott,
Yeah.
is based on one of his books. So beyond that, obviously he claims this is real. One thing that I want to focus on briefly about Whitley Strieber is that he says that he was present in 1966 for the University of Texas Charles Whitman Bell Tower Massacre. This claim has been frequently disputed, and he occasionally has said he's lying and then went back to say he was really there again. He accounted for seeing a child on a bike get, like, his head shot by Whitman. No such child was killed in the massacre. So this guy was just straight up lying about being at the Bell Tower University of Texas massacre.
That one's pretty damning. I think claiming that you were abducted by aliens might be slightly less troubling on the scale of things to claim at that point.
Yeah.
Wasn't there like a wash of these? I mean,
Yeah.
like alien abduction stories in the 70s.
Sure.
I mean, wasn't
Yeah.
there?
There was a ton of them.
Well, I mean, we almost did like a different one because
So, well, originally we were going to watch Fire in the Sky mostly because it scared me so bad when it came out. It came out, I think I was like 13, and we didn't see it in the theater. My mom rented it because my mom's kind of into aliens, and she read like Chariots of the Gods, and she lived in Arizona when that incident like happened. So I remember watching it as a kid and thinking it was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen, and thinking, oh my god, I'm definitely going to get abducted by aliens. So I never watched it again. And then Chris was like, oh, we should watch it because it's really boring and you should see it as an adult.
well, it was specifically because she was still scared about the alien section, and we were like, you know, this is something like I know for a fact the rest of that movie's not that scary. But when we watched it again, we found out that it is still disturbing, but not because of the alien thing. It's because it's all the gross things.
It's just super gross. It's like everything that triggers me as being gross. Like, it's only a 5-minute chunk of that movie. Like,
Yeah.
if they cut that movie down to 10 minutes, it would have been the same shitty movie.
Yeah.
But, so I don't know, that movie just made me angry. It made me more angry than anything else that I had to sit through it just to see that 5-minute piece again that scared me.
Yeah.
And realize, like, they were trying to say, like, a crime had occurred and there was no legal, like, basis on anything that anything had occurred.
Yeah, like the guy was still alive, he just was missing. So
Yeah.
anyway, the thing is that we watched that movie and it was really dull, and it was a situation where we realized that it wouldn't be fun to like get into because it's literally a whole movie that justified one 10-minute chunk of that movie. Like, we'll get back into Communion because this one was way more fun and we got more out of it when we watched it a day later. Let me ask you a quick question. If you guys remember Fire in the Sky at all, do you guys remember Robert Patrick being in that
Never
movie?
seen it.
No?
You don't need to see it.
Okay.
I
no.
did not remember him being in that movie.
Yeah, he's like the main lead.
I forgot Robert Patrick was in Double Dragon.
I didn't know that one. I'll have to go back and rewatch Double
Really?
Dragon.
He's like the bad guy in Double Dragon. Oh, that's a chore.
That's probably more fun.
It's a feast for the eyes. That movie is more. Yeah. Oh well, and that's why, you know, Communion is it. I don't know. It's fun, I think, because of Walken. You know,
Yeah,
he's
for
so
sure.
all over the place. And it makes it, you're kind of going with him. You know, I don't know where you're going, buddy, but I like the way you talk.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just kind of that way with this movie. Yeah, I mean, like anytime these alien abduction stories happen, I'm a huge skeptic all the time about it. You're gonna have to.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are
There's a
too.
lot of
Yeah.
ifs
Um,
on these things, and there's a
there's
lot of probably this.
And of course,
is,
the classic conception of the Greys as aliens was, I think, created by a science fiction author or something, and people just adopted it. Like, a known person who did not have an alien abduction experience created that image, and people who claim to have real experiences are like, yeah, that was it. Just because osmosis told them that's what aliens are. And they kind
Well,
of address it in this movie. They remove briefly, the alien masks look like shit in this movie, and they remove one partially at the end and reveal that they are in fact masks.
They only
Yeah.
had like the budget.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
For
They look like
just
kind of balloons.
that part of the face.
Yeah.
It's weird because like
Yeah.
the gray aliens, when they show them like in the kind of party scene look like those like flailing arm guys from like the car wash.
the car wash dealers.
Yeah, the wacky
In slow motion.
They look
flailing
like
arm.
they're just kind of floating around like fucking balloons.
Yeah.
You know, they're just kind of like.
Well, it's also they just have
you know.
like props from the movie just sitting out. They like have straight up masks from the little blue doctors just
Yeah.
sitting next to them, and they don't explain it.
I mean, none of it is explained, but the thing that
Yeah.
I explain is that if you think about it, that Christopher Walken did too much edibles, and that's what keeps happening. It makes perfect sense. Like he gets,
Sarah, I would totally give you a point.
he gets
'cause
way too
whatever
high,
happened.
and then that. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been there probably, and
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get abducted by aliens.
I'm
but
there right now.
I turned into a crab, so I could totally see how if you get too high, then you think that you were abducted by aliens.
Yeah, Sarah had a crab dream. She turned into a crab.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, when I watched it, I was like, okay, well, he's definitely hallucinating. I mean, like, and he even tries to chalk himself into that it was just hallucinating, but like, I don't know. I mean, like there's two different types of aliens. There's a little dwarf
Three.
people.
There's three
Three.
types.
Oh, excuse me. Right. 3 types of aliens. He doesn't seem to remember any sort of ship. He just goes into like a white light, and then he's in this little chamber, and they're all just kind of dancing, I guess.
Yeah.
And
There's a
then they
lot of.
exchange a high five, and
Oh yeah, I guess the 3 types are the ones that I called the little blue Doctor Who aliens. The
Yeah.
Greys, and for those who don't know what Greys are, they're the classic alien, big eyes, big head, that thing, big
the
black eyes
Roswell
on a big
dude.
head, and the Roswell
Yeah.
guy. And then there's some that look like praying mantises, just straight up look like praying mantises, but they
And there's a robot
show up sporadically.
that
I
is
don't know.
never explained.
Well, it's
Oh,
like,
and they do employ a robot.
but it's like not
It's like the shittiest robot ever.
It's also like it's not a robot. It looks like a toy. It looks like a little wind up. Like there are things that
does.
happen in this movie. It's like I would say that it's bad, but it's so inane and strange and absurd, the choices that are made, that it's hard to understand. Like, is this a comedy or is this a horror film? Like, what would you
I
guys
think
call
that
this thing?
There's a lot of ripping off, particularly Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Poltergeist. I think those 2 movies get ripped off quite a bit in this. I think it is intended to
Yeah.
be kind of a horror movie.
But it's
I
like,
would agree.
But it's
I
hard
mean,
to like
it's-
take
it's
it
kinda
straight.
unsettling, you
is
know?
the thing. It's hard to just like take the film straight
Yep.
because it's so weird. And
do you think that's because we're so far removed from that trend of alien abduction and stuff? Like we just don't hear these stories that much anymore. You know, they're just not as, or at least maybe they're just not as popular.
Yeah,
as
the
they once were. You just
mainstream
don't.
media covered them up.
It's a
Well, it's
conspiracy.
like if you hear about stuff now, like alien invasion stuff, like what you hear about now are like reptilians or like ancient aliens, like the TV show Ancient Aliens, which makes it popular but also silly. Like for some reason, like just like you said, like at the time there's like a pop sci thing where people were doing regression therapy, where they would remember things from their past, and there was a whole slew of these things where people were like, "Oh, I saw Satanists." I was abused as a child.
Yeah.
There's an alien abducting me, and
The weird past life shit that people
Yeah.
claim they were somebody
Oh, yeah.
else.
yeah, Shirley MacLaine, I think, was making a lot of claims at the time that she was like a reincarnated
Yeah.
somebody or other.
But that was like the prime like time for that, like
Yeah.
the late 70s and the through the 80s until the 90s. But I think like since technology has changed, they've had to go back to like the ancient alien style shit where there's no proof that something didn't happen because now everybody has a cell phone.
Yeah.
Like there's like forensics and stuff. Like if you said you were abducted by an alien, they could very quickly prove that you were like hanging out in the drive-thru at Jack in the Box, like ordering food, and you weren't like in a spaceship.
Yeah, right. I mean, at least in the communion, at least when he goes back into the alien party or whatever, at least he brings a video camera this
Yeah.
time. I'm like, that'll help. And then he just hands it to the alien. It's like, sorry, I didn't mean to bring this. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that would, if I saw an alien or something alien-like, yeah, first thing I'm going to do is pull out my goddamn cell phone and take a picture
Yeah.
because I want to make sure I'm not hallucinating.
Yeah.
Somebody
Yeah.
else is seeing this because that would be my first instinct if I saw anything close to this. Be like, I must be hallucinating.
Yeah, you break out
I've
a
gotta
cell
be.
phone. Just
Somebody
point a cell
spiked my
phone
beer.
at it and record. Just anybody can break out a cell phone.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like all this stuff is funny because it used to be like even going back to something like an older like alien abduction thing like Signs, like they made a big deal in Signs about found footage stuff, and it all looks like shit because of the time period. But if you were watching it now, everything would be like an HD Apple phone. Like it would
Sure,
look better
yeah.
than whatever
4K,
they're actually
yeah.
filming the rest of the movie with. You know.
Yeah. It's, yeah. And that's why I'm this movie's very confusing to sort of follow because it's edited really strange too. So
Yeah.
like there's this whole sequence where Walken and Krause are in the elevator. They're in an argument. They get out of the elevator, continue the argument, and then just go back in the elevator and go up.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a budgetary thing. I mean, it seems like this was all done pretty quickly because I felt the same way with that end sequence that Zach brought up where they're kind of philosophizing into the camera at a museum. Like, I almost thought, like, did somebody had to go home for lunch and we just couldn't get the 2 shots, so we're just going to put them like this and pretend like they're talking to the camera? I don't know. It was just weird.
It's possible, like, quickly looking at this director's other stuff, like, before he did this, he did a lot of really bizarre, like, Howling movies and A Breed Apart, The Beast Within, which is known for being another sort of
I was gonna throw together a quiz of which of these titles from this director is real and which I made up for each of
sorry.
you guys.
Well, it would have been unfair because I've seen some of these. Like, The Beast Within was another movie where it was the entire movie was predicated on the ending transformation where a guy turns into a monster, which was also Howling 2 and Howling 3. Whole movies predicated on the person's changing into a monster.
Howling 2 was one of the ones that I had on the list, but it's a gimme because I think a lot of people know about Howling 2, subtitle Your Sister is a Werewolf.
It's an Australian one, right?
But I don't know. I've heard it's legendarily bad. Like, I've heard it's a good bad movie for the ages. Like, people I've heard I've never seen it.
I haven't seen it either, but I have a memory
it's-
of my mom being pissed when we watched it. I remember that.
Why was she pissed?
I think it was because she liked the
Why was
Howling and
she
she
mad?
got pissed about Howling 2. I just remember she was like, I don't like this movie. It's bad.
So
They-
what I want
Sequels
to
always disappoint.
there's a couple things I want to point out in this guy's filmography. His first movie is just called Swastika, which is great.
It's a documentary.
He's got
I noticed there's a trend in his filmography too. I did kind of browse his filmography. There's a trend.
Pterodactyl Women from Beverly Hills is a great title. Also great title, The Gertrude Stein Mystery, or Some Like It Art, which I don't know what that could be about. But the movie that I want to focus on is called Snide and Prejudice. The cover also has like a picture of like Hitler and a swastika on it. I'm just going to briefly read you this synopsis, okay? This is according to Wikipedia, Snide and Prejudice. At a mental institution, the resident physician, Dr. Cohen, encourages his patients who believe they are important Nazi figures to act out their fantasies. The therapy sessions show Hitler consolidating his power by assembling his gang of supporters. However, they are interrupted at times, once because Davidson's uniform is at the dry cleaners, and another time because a patient who believes he is Picasso interrupts a session. And that's Snide and Prejudice.
Is that the whole
What?
movie?
That is the synopsis on Wikipedia.
It has 6.8
Wow.
stars on IMDb. Like, how is that possible?
IMDb doesn't have real numbers.
Okay.
It's fine. When you see the percentages on IMDb,
It
it's
looks
usually
real
like
bad.
3 people could have done it. Yeah.
I am pleased to tell you that Jeffrey Combs of Reanimator is in the film. And also the guy who played Robert the Bruce in Braveheart plays Adolf, the patient who thinks he's Adolf Hitler.
Angus McFade.
Are you
Yeah.
kidding?
No,
Wow.
I am not kidding.
Oh my
Wow.
Are you
god.
guys gonna have to watch this
That-
one?
Oh my god. This movie.
I don't know. I mean,
holy shit. This movie is like a who's who of famous people. Mick
Wait,
Fleetwood
Mick
is in
Fleetwood
this.
is in it?
Brian James, like the guy who is the bad, like shooty, like android from
Richard
Blade
Mole?
Runner. Richard Mole, Bull's in this movie. Joseph, the both Bottoms brothers. Both Bottoms brothers?
Oh, they're
Joseph and Sam Bottoms. I think these guys might be related.
Yeah. So
Bizarre.
That is the strangest plot synopsis to like a Twilight Zone episode I've ever heard. I mean, that's what it kind of sounds like, is like a weird Twilight Zone episode. And honestly, so does Communion, to be told. So I mean, he's got a type, I guess. This movie's very strange, even in some of the choices they make. As I was saying in the editing, it's sort of frenetic and it just kind of cuts you off and leaves you in the middle of a scene, and then we'll go back into another scene. And it's not served well by Watkins, by Krause's performance in this. It's not that she's bad. It's just that, like you were mentioning earlier, she's got two notes. She's either overly casual about everything, or extremely angry.
yeah.
Like
she's
they
hot or cold.
Yeah, I mean, she fucking loses it at him at that Halloween thing.
Yeah.
You know, and if I were my wife going through this, I would be really more concerned than angry. But she seems more like pissed off that she's like not a part of this vision or whatever.
Well,
Yeah,
to be,
she's,
you know, like Sarah said, with the whole thing where it's kind of as if he's like had too strong of an edible. It seems completely reasonable that his wife could be angry or really loving at the same time, because we've all been there. You've been a little too out of it and you suddenly can't order a Jack in the Box and you're like, I just want chicken fingers. I don't know the questions.
Fries. Anyway, yeah, it's and that's why the notes aren't very helpful for that too.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to beat up on little kid performances, you know, despite what we did with Bugsy Malone.
Yeah.
But the little kid was tough to watch. You could tell he was.
There were a couple parts where it was like a genuine little kid moment. Like there's a part where he thinks he sees a spider, and then like, I don't know, Walken comes in and they're like play a fun family game and like whatever, it's fine. And then at the end of the scene, there's a shot of the kid being like, I wasn't. I think maybe what I saw wasn't a spider, and it was clearly just the kid being a kid, and it was like, yeah, that's what kids are like. I mean, that was not a performance.
Well, I loved
Lindsay Krause, by the way.
I loved one of the scenes with the child where like the Russian man had just had a bad night and it's breakfast, and the Russian man's like, we need to go home. And the adults are having a real conversation, and the kid just pipes up and says like, come on, Jerry, come on, Jerry, we gotta stay, Jerry.
Doesn't he say like, give me a break or something?
Give me a break, Jerry.
Like something that's totally like inappropriate for a child to say to an adult, like during an adult conversation.
Okay, I want to go home. I'm sorry, I'm not angry. I can't explain.
Come on, Alex, give me a break.
After Christmas, you know, they're going out for a walk. There's a lot of that in this movie. But Walken kind of collapses with a headache or whatever. And Walken's like, I gotta go. And the little kid's such a little shit about it, where he's just like, come on, you're fine, Dad. Let's go. Come on. You know, easy, coach. You know, I gotta sit this one out.
Come on, Dad, let's go.
I don't feel good.
Dad, let's go.
My head hurts. It's behind.
Daddy, you're okay. Now let's go.
What's the matter? You got a little mark there, a little
Dad, let's go.
bite or something, spider bite.
Daddy, come on.
Does it hurt when I press it?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. You all right?
Dad.
Go ahead. I have to go home.
Hey, wait a second.
It's like a little
know,
child version of the Great Santini. Like, come on, Dad, cry a few, Dad. Walk with your son.
Lindsay Krause briefly is. I recognized her primarily because she has a recurring role on the 4th season of Buffy, but she was in a lot of stuff back in the 70s, and was David Mamet's wife, and is the mother of Zosha Mamet of Girls.
Didn't know that.
I didn't know that, but I recognize her from Slapshot. I think she's Paul Newman's ex-wife. And
Well, like two years later, 2 or 3, no, not more than that. A couple years later, she was in the movie The Arrival, another alien invasion movie with Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling you can't
Charlie
really...
Sheen with a lot of the Charlie Sheen eyebrow in that movie.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you can't really blame her for her action in this, just because I have a feeling that the director probably was not supporting both actors equally.
Probably not.
That'd be my...
Completely agree.
Yeah. Like, I have to imagine he was like, all right, Christopher Walken, do whatever you want. And Christopher Walken has, like, such a weird, nuanced performance. Like, when he's, like, in the regression thing, he, like, touches his head in a weird way where he's like, I don't like this. What's happening? Where am I? And he's, like, doing big hand gestures, but hand gestures that don't belong in everyday life. It's the sort of stuff you'd see on stage at, like, 20 feet away, not stuff right next to you. It's weird.
It's always struck me about Walken. He moves. I mean, he's famously a dancer, and it's always struck me that he kind of moves like that. You know, everything's very like kind of smooth. You know, he just kind of shimmies his way into things. You know, like you know, even the aliens. He's sort of getting down with their little dance party or whatever.
He like glides in
and he's
through
very
one.
fluid
It's
with
crazy.
his movement. Yeah, he just kind of just floats along. You know, and he does that throughout the movie. Even when he's got his Sunday best on with the bag, he's going to go confront the aliens with his camera, and he's just kind of bouncing his way out of there.
Yeah, he's singing "Putting on the Ritz" because
and his wife just
he
lets
dressed
him
in a
go,
suit to go,
which is like weird to me. Like he's acting super weird. He leaves and he doesn't like. He just says he's going out right when he leaves.
Yeah, if somebody came in a full
he says he's
suit,
getting a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, he says he's getting a pack of cigarettes. The classic "Your dad's never coming home"
Yeah.
line. But it looks like he's in
And
a
then
suit. I
she
was like,
says
he's going to kill himself.
After he leaves, she says, "You don't smoke." Like he says, "I'm going for a pack of cigarettes." Clearly a lie, based on their previous conversation, because he didn't say that immediately.
And they never
and then
showed him
after he
smoking
leaves, she
before.
says, "You don't smoke."
Yeah, that's
She says, "You don't smoke." Yeah, like
that's
he
like the
smoke.
weird like '80s thing where it's like it's sort of like in John Hughes movies where they have the setup to a joke where the whole setup and the action of the joke is you say something inappropriate and then they cut away before anyone has to deal with responsibilities. In this one, the guy says the thing, leaves, and then the person's left, and then they say the thing that they would normally have said in person, but they can't say it in person because this is the 80s and there's a weird way in which the rhythm of comedy and conversation happens. It makes no sense. I agree with you. Point for Zach. This movie has dumb dialogue.
Even more strange. Okay, Zach gets a point from Bora. And then even stranger after the whole, alien dance party when he comes home and she's waiting there with their son, and everyone's just like, "Oh, hi, honey, how's work? How you doing? Cool, great. Everything work out? Oh yeah. I think I talked to him and we settled on where we're at. And I think I'm gonna write a book about it." And she's, like I said, very casual. About a lot of it.
There's a point where, she just comes to accept that the aliens are real, over the therapy sessions. She's like, yeah, this is really happening. I guess the hypnosis triggers her to be like, okay, this is real. But, man, I don't know. She's equally angry, I think, about him getting scared by a girl in a Halloween mask and him almost shooting her with his shotgun. The levels of anger are roughly the same. And I want to that scene with the mask. The mask is really detailed. The mouth moves, the mandible moves, and this girl set up this whole trap to scare this kid, and he's also frightened by it. And when it has the response that the girl clearly wanted, not only is she oh. Everybody in the entire apartment building is like, "What the fuck, man? Whitley, what the fuck?"
Yeah, come on, man. She's just trying to scare you. What are you doing screaming?
Yeah. I had a feeling what they were going for was he was having a flashback or something, and it was supposed to be way scary. But the thing is I totally agree with you because there's no heightened or lowered level with Walken's performance. It's just the whole way through. So when he starts freaking out and screaming at the child, you're like, "Oh, I mean, that's what he was doing 2 minutes ago. There's nothing different here." As opposed to
doesn't this seem like normal behavior from this guy? Because he sort of acts like that all the time.
Yeah. It's like, "Oh, I was hot. I was writing. I was ready to write. I'm hot."
Get up! I'm cooking. I'm on a roll. What's the matter with you? Boom!
It's like the whole movie's just him yelling and saying weird shit.
Yeah, he just goes, he's the kind of guy who goes to bed with his wife and he puts his glasses on upside down and he's like, "Honey, say something dirty. Say erection." It's And she's like, I'll never say it. And he thinks that's hilarious. Classic bedroom talk.
I wonder if any of that was written or if it was just like improv stuff where Philip Moore was like, oh, Walken, put the glasses on upside down. It'll inform what you're doing.
It seems like a lot of this dialogue was kind of improvised, right? It sort of seems like Walken's just riffing most of the time. Like it does seem sort of like off the cuff.
I mean, there's so many scenes that contribute nothing to the story. I said earlier, and I stand by it, that there are parts when he's like playing family man where he seems charming enough. Like, I buy it, which is a big thing for Walken, who's notoriously kind of a his career has leaned towards him being kind of a creepy weirdo. But I think he does, like, he pulls off the charisma of a dad when he's like being with his kid and stuff pretty well, like when they're riding bikes and stuff like that. But there's so many scenes that contribute nothing. Like, from the very beginning, I was confused. For the first 10 minutes, I was like, I don't know what this movie is. Because it starts with him goofing off and writing, and then it quickly is like, there's a fire, and the fireman comes over, and there's a comedy scene where they're like, we're going to charge you $200. And then it's like,
right, because it seems like he's done this before. Right.
Yeah.
I had no idea what the fuck was supposed to be going on for the first 10 minutes of this movie.
He's like, let your wife do the cooking or something also.
Yeah.
Let your wife cook.
This movie starts and just goes, and you don't know what's happening until you're suddenly there, and you're like, oh, I guess this is a movie with aliens, and Christopher Walken's shooting a shotgun.
That's basically all that we, like, because I had never seen it before, and neither had Chris, but we wanted to watch...
I'd seen it.
Oh, you had seen it?
Yeah, I remembered this one. That's why I suggested it, because it was just so strange.
Well, I thought you hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen it, but we wanted to watch another, like, weird alien one, because Fire in the Sky was, like, such an utter disappointment. And this one definitely, once I was like, yeah, this is a guy who's way too high, and he continually gets way too high and has the same, like, hallucination, but his wife totally goes with it, and it's fucking weird because she's like, if it was me, I would be way pissed, like, as pissed as, like, the Halloween shit, but it just, like, she doesn't get mad again, and then they go to the therapy thing, and then the group therapy session is weird because they're like, everybody in there is weird, like, oh, he's a writer, is he here to spy on us? And it's just, like, it makes no sense, but it's really weird. It's entertaining.
There's a woman in the group therapy session who seems to maybe be played for comedy. She has, like, kind of a silly voice, and she's like, I disagree with that, I'm a victim.
Yeah.
And, like, the comedy there is, like, I didn't agree to be anally probed, which is like, yeah, that's... that's not great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also...
I'd call that a victim.
It's weird that you bring that up because it's also, like, at the end of the movie, when he comes to terms with the aliens, I just have issues with, like, what was happening, what was going on with, like, them going outside on the roof, and then them on the street, and there's this, like... this helicopter shot that's like zipping away from him into the distance. But in all of this, like, if he's coming to terms with all this, they've told them that they're gonna come back for his kids. You've seen that the aliens are stealing children from people. The lady says it in the thing. She's like, they stole my baby. And he knows that the aliens are gonna be sexually assaulting his child. I don't understand why he's okay with any of this. I don't understand how it's a calm, easygoing ending.
Except the things you can't control. Classic AA.
It's like a
the kid doesn't even want to go. The kid doesn't even want to go. The kid's like happily asleep in his bed. They grant him up, and then there's nothing out there. And the kid's like, I'm out of here. Well, and mom is like, no, you've got to stay here. And then it does a weird cutaway back to Whitley writing, and it cuts to back to the helicopter shot on the roof. Roll credits.
Well, he touches an alien face that comes, like, gently caresses an alien face that comes into the scene.
That's
and then credits. There's a couple things
in a quasi-romantic way. It's weird.
Yeah, the kid is like, the kid is of the opinion. He says that the aliens look ugly, but inside they're soft and perfect. He also...
You don't want to hear a child say that.
But doesn't he say that they're nice? Like, they were nice to him?
They kind of scare me.
Kind of.
Well, not totally. They're ugly and that's scary, but inside, they're all sort of soft and perfect. Like that poem.
Something like that. He has a weird relationship. I don't know what they don't show him with the aliens ever, so it's unclear. And then the other thing I briefly wanted to mention is something Sarah said. If I could give her a point, I would. I guess I'll give it to Chris by proxy. The idea that these are like high thoughts that this guy had and just like is running with is very apt, because there's a lot of times in this movie where they're like saying things you'd say if you were mega high, like, man, the aliens are just seeing the first episode of The Honeymooners because of how light years work, man. And then they're like, what if the aliens guided evolution? No, wait. What if the afterlife is us becoming the aliens, man? It's like so
Well,
many.
what if the aliens are God, man? It's like all the many faces of God.
Hey man, it's not that.
Yeah.
This is just
It
the
would've been a lot
surface
funnier
you're
if it was-
showing us, man. There's this deeper alien. It's just a box within a box within a box, man.
The aliens are us from the future. That's the one that I'm subscribing to now. Mm-hmm. Coming back.
Right, yeah, they're the higher evolved versions. It's not quite Planet of the Apes, but close to it. You know, they're close to it. We just divulge into, you know, as Zach said, little, you know, Centaurians or whatever they are. It's a weird movie. I mean, like my Sarah, when she was watching it, she was utterly lost. She was with you, Zach. She was just like, is anything gonna happen in this movie? You know, and then it does, and then she's like, what? And then like the whole gun thing happens, and you hear a gunshot, and I really thought like, oh fuck, this movie just took a really dark turn. And then it just goes back to, you're fucking crazy, and we're gonna put you into therapy with some, you know, and put you, and then you can tell that the hypnosis, I mean, that to me, the fact that the hypnosis, he's remembering stuff there is a dead giveaway. He's adding more details, you know, he's adding more bullshit to whatever fever dream he had over a bad acid trip or whatever.
Yeah. Back in the day, they just always thought that stuff was like they thought that stuff was just true. They thought it was like a lie detector test. Like that's also not an accurate gauge of anything. So people gave way too much to the whole like regression therapy.
I think that's part
stuff.
of why that was one of the things that made me so angry in Fire in the Sky. As soon as they brought out the lie detector test, I'm like, nope, this is fake science. Like, yeah, I got mad, but
I love. They always say that he always says, well, I passed a lie detector test, so tell me I'm lying. You know, like, well, okay, you know, let's relax there. It's anyway. Movies like that, because I'm such a skeptic about aliens, it's not that I don't accept the possibility of alien life. That seems probably more than likely. But visiting here,
do you just think that they're not as into anal probing as most people seem to think they are? That they wouldn't go across an entire galaxy and then be completely befuddled by what could be in the lower GI tract of a human? You know what I mean?
that part was so weird too when he's at the doctor's office and then he kind of says that like on his way out, and then we're like I think we kind of expected it, but then we were like, what? Like, and then the whole like the White Christmas scene where he's like, oh, are we getting ready to sing White Christmas? And the thing, they pull the thing out of the wall and it gets really fucking weird.
Yeah, it's like that's not slang I've ever heard for being anally probed.
But now that's the slang we are using for being anally probed.
Not that we have to say that very much, just to be clear.
Yeah, they are technologically. It seems like a race that can travel light years extremely quickly and levitate things up to their ship and make people forget and mind control. Doesn't need to literally stick a probe into somebody to discover what's going on. I mean, you know what would be more useful? Like, just steal a body or kill somebody and just cut them on open. Figure it out.
Did like the thing where he like was like touching his head, and so it was unnecessary anal probing, I think.
I mean, is it possible that he was just really fucked up and had a really good time?
Or maybe it was
I think
maybe
he
it's
was
a
just really
social
fucked
custom.
up. I think that
Maybe-
I still say that he was just way too high, and
Yeah.
that's what happened.
My running theory is now that for aliens, the anal probe is not a science thing. It is a social moray on their planet, and they think they're just like sort of being neighborly.
They've heard that people
And that's
like
why
this,
at the end of
people
the
do
movie,
this.
yeah.
right, and that's why at the end of the movie, Zach, Walken has to show them how they greet on our planet. We do a handshake, we bow, we do a high five. You know,
One of the aliens did like a too slow or some shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
They also did the
Yeah.
the classic the finger turkey,
yeah,
whatever that is.
Right. Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't do like the Ric Flair thing of like offering his hand and then ooh, so Zach, I think you might be onto something. So I think I'm going to give you a point for that because I think that maybe that is just how they communicated their culture, and Walken instructed them that no, we don't need to do it that way here. We could just shake hands.
So he is a hero in a way.
Maybe that's the secret film the whole time. It's not that he's okay with the fact his child's going to be attacked. It's that he's talked them out of it. He's like, no, that was how they used to say hello way back in ancient times. Today we do it all with hands.
No White Christmas. We don't need to do that now. We've gone beyond White Christmas.
So weird. Strange. And I guess we're not surprised. This movie was not very well received. It didn't do very well. I guess nobody's really surprised by that because if I had watched that movie in the theater, I'm walking out of that movie being like, well, that was a waste of $5.
I gotta say,
ticket prices were $5. And
I mean, so far this round is this and Bugsy Malone. I think Bugsy Malone as a film is better made than this in a lot of ways. But I also think Sarah Maloff has a real golden opportunity on this one. Yeah,
we went back and forth on a couple options, but I for what she's gonna pick is gonna be not quite what this is. So like it didn't do very well in the box office, obviously, but it has kind of reemerged as like a kind of a cult classic. That makes sense to me because it's so strange, it's so weird,
everybody loves
I can
Walken
definitely
now.
see eating a bunch of edibles and just blasting off.
I wish I had watched this on edibles with Shannon. I watched it alone and sober, and I would not recommend it that way. I'd recommend it high with friends.
Yeah. So that sort of, so like, on the Flophouse, they have this phrase of like bad or good bad, or just, regular bad or whatever. This is like a good bad movie. I'll call it a good bad movie. It's not good.
It's very entertaining. It's like
fun to watch and definitely is going to stick with you.
It's either good, bad, or movie I kind of liked are the three categories on that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say
this is definitely a good, bad movie.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to say it's better than other alien abduction films.
Not
but
for the intention.
Yeah. It's definitely not for the intention.
You don't like it for the reasons, the filmmakers wanted
It's hilarious because it is so weird, and trying to explain it to somebody else why they should watch it, and why they should watch it high, like baked as hell, is another, like, I already did that to my coworker, and he loved every moment of it.
Yeah, it's not a film that would stands up to close speculation.
No, don't. Yeah. Only high thoughts are welcome in this movie.
Yeah,
maybe
I'll give it a few weeks or month to forget some things about this film, and then Shannon and I, one night when we have nothing going on, stuck in quarantine as we will be, can grab a few edibles and throw it back on.
Right, yeah. And then you'll be like, oh, right, I remember this part.
It makes way more sense, I think. It could make more sense.
Or it could just put you into full panic, but it's great. I think it's a wonderful idea to let us know how this goes.
Singing White Christmas. Anything could happen.
That's why it's fun to watch movies like this. These little relics that are kind of buried deep. I think I've always said watching not great movies is probably a little more instructive than watching the classics. Not so much to analyze necessarily, but you start to learn of certain quirks and traits that you kind of you sort of like the movie becomes a character and you're just sort of playing along with the character, know, and so you just kind of get attracted to or charmed by certain quirks or idiosyncrasies of the movie. And
Listen-
this movie's all for it. And like I said, I think it's mostly Walken. I think he's, he's so strange in this movie and intense,
If you want to learn about movies and movie making and how it works well and how it fails, you're going to need Gallant, but you're also going to need Goofus. And we got some Goofus over here to watch, just to teach us a little something.
yeah.
about
Right.
how it
Maybe
all
you
works.
should recut this one.
Look,
Maybe I should.
It's educational. History ain't always pretty. Yeah, right.
Yeah. This is definitely more Goofus than
history
Gallant.
ain't
I
always
agree.
pretty.
But I mean, I think that's kind of we've
and-
set our bid on it. Do you guys have anything else to say on this one, or do you want to move into what we're gonna do next?
No, we covered the weird Eric Clapton 80s softcore porn music. No,
The Eric Clapton thing.
Yeah.
The Eric Clapton thing was the first laugh of the movie when Eric
Me too.
Clapton.
Me too. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And even because it's so 80s, the opening credits, and it's got that like guitar, but then it says like music by Eric Clapton. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's like from the time period
I
when he
think
was doing
you
like the
can-
music for like Lethal Weapon and stuff. So it's like all that weird like 80s bluesy stuff where he's like, wow, wow, wow.
God,
And
yeah.
it's just completely inappropriate for what's happening.
It is. I think you could probably surmise my final thoughts from what I've said about this movie so far. Watch it high. It's a pretty good bad. It's weird as hell. It's funny at times unintentionally. As a movie that it was supposed to be a horror drama, it fails spectacularly. It like clearly rips off. Like there's a toy that's clearly a shitty version of the clown from Poltergeist, but it's like not scary at all. It's like half-assed as hell, and all of the monsters. It's it fails at what it's supposed to be, but it's delightful at what it doesn't intend to be.
I feel the exact same way.
I could probably agree with A. Yeah, I think I could probably agree with that. I'll go my final thoughts, and we'll get to Borif and Sarah for their final thoughts. But for me, the movie is not what it intended to be, but wasn't necessarily not worth my time. Like I said, history ain't always pretty, and it's good to watch movies like this. Especially, Christopher Walken has been in well over 100 movies. Not all of them are going to be great. So like it's useful to watch a movie like this, and also it is kind of right in the middle of that whole alien abduction trend that was happening throughout movies. Something that I always get such a huge eye roll from me about, and still to this day, this movie did not change that. However, I admire Walken a lot. He really carries this movie, for being for being such a strange movie and making him do such strange things, which he seems all too comfortable in doing. I think it's worth it. If you're a Walken fan and you haven't seen this movie, watch it, because like Christopher Walken really is it will carry you through this strange movie. But again, the advisory, I wouldn't watch it sober. So yeah, and then maybe you'll agree with Walken, and maybe there is aliens out there and you just need to show them how to shake hands or whatever. So yeah, that's my final thoughts. Not great, but it was worth it.
Yeah. I guess, Sarah, you can probably say your final thoughts if you want.
It was amazing. Every moment was a joy. And be grateful that we didn't make you watch Fire in the Sky, because that was like 120 minutes of just bad.
There was a lot of starch in that potato. A lot of dead in that.
It made me very angry. That was the thing that it made me angry.
Yeah,
Because it was so bad, and it for like since 1993 or whenever that movie came out, I was afraid of how maybe I thought it was bad and I just couldn't remember.
To be fair, like I have heard multiple people who are about my age, when we were pretty young, apparently Troll 2 used to run on HBO.
Yeah.
And there are people my age who like thought that movie, when they saw it, they were very little, like they'd see key scenes from it and were like, that movie's scary.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about Troll 2, it is famously one of the funniest, stupidest bad movies ever made.
They're eating him. They're going to eat me. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that I think are our age that they saw that movie when they were young, because that used to play constantly on like Cinemax and HBO, like when it came after it came out, and like Unsolved Mysteries was on at the same time, and then the X-Files started. So that whole, like, I was like, yes, I am this, for sure I'm gonna get abducted by aliens, and that movie just made it worse. It's a good thing I didn't see this movie like when I was a kid, and I asked my mom and she said she'd never seen it. She's like, is it good? I'm like, no, don't watch it.
No. Yeah, my thoughts on it are kind of the same. Like, it's a movie to watch for just sort of bizarreness in it. And it's also a movie that I think, and this is a super weird thing to say, but it's a really gifable movie. Like, clips of this movie are hilarious if you can clip them out and just send them to people as GIFs. And I think that the movie works in, like, non-sequitur chunks like that way better than it does as an actual film.
Yeah, it's, like, super memeable.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I've never seen any memes of this movie before, but you totally could do it if, I guess, more people had seen it.
Yeah, I feel like some internet show or podcast will discover this movie in like 5 years, and then it'll have like a flurry of people, like imitators, being like, Communion's the weirdest movie you've never seen. And it won't be our podcast. We don't have the listenership, at least not yet.
That's right. Yeah,
Maybe
that's
this
right.
will
You, dear listener,
we
can
were
change
on-
that.
We were on the ground floor. Do you hear that, 2026 people?
Yeah,
That's right.
You're all standing on our shoulders. That's how you were able to see further and farther to the comedy of this show, was by standing in our hard work.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. See, we are the higher evolved people of the past, you know, and you guys are still in this larvae state, you know. That's how you are with Communion. Do you think that this? We kind of talked about this with Bugsy Malone. I actually, like, no bullshit, I enjoyed talking about this movie with you guys more than I think I enjoyed watching it, because we just have to, like, decompress and express well the strangeness that just we experience. But also, when movies like this come out and they scare you when you're a kid, we were talking about this a little bit with Bugsy Malone, where, you know, when you're exposed to things as a kid, you're kind of inoculated with it, right? You know, if you don't have that inoculation and you watch it when you're grown up, it is not going to have the effect that it would.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
That it should. I sort of think this movie wouldn't have hit the mark even if I was a kid. I think I would have been more confused.
I think that's
anything.
probably accurate.
Yeah, I can tell you that from having been a child and
I don't
seeing
think
this,
this
it
movie
makes
would have
no
done much
sense.
for kids.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing it. I remember when they
They'd be
advertised
bored.
it, they advertised it like it was going to be like what you'd probably expect an alien abduction horror film would be. Like, the guy had made, like, Wolfen, and he made Hunger, like, the writer. So I think people were thinking it was going to be like a straight movie, and it's not a straight movie. It's very silly and
I thought it was
strange.
going to be more like Fire in the Sky, but, like, I guess better. I mean, it is way better, too, just because the only part of Fire in the Sky worth watching is, like, the 5 minutes where he's in the spaceship and, like, after they find him, but the rest of it is, like, boring, like, small town, like, politics nonsense.
Yeah, it's a movie that could be ruined by YouTube. Like, if that movie came out now, someone would post the one scene from the whole movie and it would just bomb at the box office because everyone would be like, no, I don't need to go see a 45, or I don't need to waste my time on that. I've already seen it. But
yeah, but at least Communion, there's at least like 4 or 5, maybe 3-minute scenes that, you know, you could clip up into YouTube that you'll get the gist of it. So I guess that's it for final thoughts. Let me a little bit of business before I launch into the third and final movie of Zach Powers' significant other's choice, Lady's Choice. Okay, so Chris Boroff, you have 11 points in the final total. You now have 12 points because Zach gave you a point for being married to Sarah, who made a good observation about everybody's fucking
you'd be surprised how much of my life has been predicated on the exact same thing.
Right.
It's because I married well.
And you only have one more bonus point to give for the last round, and I have 10 points. I have one more point to give. Nobody's given me any points. Boy, you guys are really sour about that whole Wild Bunch thing.
Did he say anything good this time?
He agreed with me about
No.
the people being high.
Do you want to give him a point?
Yeah,
Sure.
I will give Russell a point.
Yay! Thanks for the charity point, Boroff. I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, you were
but thanks,
leading us
Sarah.
there.
That's
You were
nice.
leading us there. I had a feeling something
I
was
know.
going on.
I did. Alrighty. And
I
then, Zach Powers, you still have 2 bonus points to give, but you gained 2 more points from Boroff for the nonsensical smoking alibi. And then you got a point for me because of your anal probing cultural communication theory. So you have a whopping 14 points to allocate.
We're racking
at
them
the
up
end
to an
here.
episode. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's almost impossible that I continue that rate.
Yeah, you're kind of hammering it home.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sarah and I have discussed what movie we were going to do, and we've gone back and forth on a couple options, but we decided.
Hey, you're not supposed to have input. This is another.
Oh no!
Putting your finger on the scale, huh, Russell?
Oh no! See, no! I didn't give the flat finger, but she asked me like, okay, I'm deciding between these two movies. Which ones do you think? She went for the choice that I didn't pick because I wanted to do the other movie. So she decided in honor of the theme and a movie that she grew up with, and she absolutely loves, and it's probably a little bit more relevant now.
What's the movie that didn't get picked first? What didn't?
It's a mad world.
And what did get picked?
What got picked was 9 to 5.
Oh, I've never seen it, so that'll be fun.
Really? Okay, good.
Wait. We're talking about
it's a movie Sarah kind of
the Dabney Coleman starring Dolly Parton and Lily Tomlin starring 9 to 5.
You're gonna watch that
Lily
after
Tomlin,
you watch
Jane Fonda. You betcha.
Communion.
Yeah.
That's a good sequel.
Right. So yeah, it is.
This has been a weird round. This is the weirdest round we maybe will ever do.
I would say. Yeah, other than like the first round where we didn't really have we were still kind of nebulous in our form and format, this is by far the most disparate choice of movies you can fucking think of. So, yeah. So we'll do 9 to 5 next. And my Sarah will be joining us. We have all the ladies joining. And Sarah, thank you for joining us. And thanks for the point. And,
thank you
for recommending the very, very strange movie. It was worth the experience because I don't think I would have been able to experience this had somebody not forced me to. So well done indeed.
Everybody should see it at least once. Hi.
Put that on the cover art. Everybody should see it at least once.
Yeah, see it once, yes.
However you see it. Do see it once because just for, again.
And then make sure you tell everybody else to watch it without any like context other than watch it high.
No.
Yeah, you want to. I try to go into all these movies unless I've seen it before.
If I rewatch this with Shannon, I don't even know if she knows the basic premise. Maybe I won't even show her the cover art, and I'll just start it.
Don't. It'll be way funnier if you don't.
Yeah, if there's no context for this ever turning into an alien thing before they show up, that would be hilarious. You have to let me know. You have to let us know how that happens.
When the first part when they show the alien where the face comes out like behind the closet or something, he's like, "I see you." Then she'll know it's a good movie.
All right.
Alrighty. Well, I guess that will do it for Communion. This has been the Movie Trap. Join us next time for the final round and voting for this round, which is going to be weird to vote on. These are going to be weird movies to compare and contrast. So join us next time for 9 to 5. Signing off, I'm going to say goodbye for my partner, Chris Boroff.
Good night and
Say good
well
night,
met.
Gracie.
Shake hands like a human.
And there you go. Right. And for my other co-host, Zach Powers.
Will you say erection?
And I, of course, am Russell Carlson. And as we always say here on the Movie Trap, as we just said, but it bears repeating, Diane Ladd is too young to be Chevy Chase's mom.
Here I am, I'm naked. I'm talking to you like you were real. Go to hell. Can we talk this over? Yeah, it looks like you're gonna sing White Christmas.